panel then. And India clearly has seen a fortune rise of women in leadership positions, as you just saw, or you've been seeing since morning, in fact, with their diverse perspectives, right? Their natural inclination towards fostering innovation, inclusivity, and positive cultures that empower employees in India. And on the global scale as well, we are witnessing a sharp shift in companies being increasingly helmed by powerful Indian and Indian origin women as well. Now, this is a brigade of successful women CEOs and MDs who are inspiring a generation of women to dream big and hustle to achieve and fulfill their goals and ambitions. And to talk about how India Inc.'s Naari Shakti is going to pan out in the next decade, we have with us two very dynamic leading ladies. Please welcome and put your hands together for Executive Vice Chairperson of Apollo Hospitals, Shobhana Kamineni, and the Chairperson and MD of the Lalit Suri Hospiality Group, Dr. Jyotsna Suri. They're going to be both in conversation with Padmaja Joshi.
Thank you very much, both ladies, for joining us here on the India Economic Conclave. Let me first start by asking you, do you think of it as a compliment or slightly reductive when you are referred to as women CEOs?
Good one. Yeah,
I've always wondered because...
No, I don't take it as a compliment at all. I'll use the advantage of being a woman CEO because you get noticed, and there's so few of us, but I think it's quite insulting. I'm not there as a woman CEO because I'm a woman, but just because I'm just as capable.
Thank you. So, when a lot of people think, Ms. Suri, that is there any specific talent that women get to the table which helps them in business, that you are specialized at your job because you bring a certain talent set by virtue of being a woman? How do you look at this argument, and do you think it applies to you? Have you had that personal experience ever?
So I think, you have to be having the requisite talent in any case to get into a leadership role. So whether you're a man or a woman, it really doesn't make any difference. The difference is the perspective, in the sense that a woman probably brings a little more empathy to the way she approaches a situation. Perhaps a little bit more patience that she brings in. But I think talent, you have to be talented enough, or you have to have the requisite qualities to be able to get into a leadership role. So it's not a man or a woman.
Do you think that after a point it doesn't really matter? It's only what you bring in terms of your skills, irrespective of your gender?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it was ever held against you at work? That there were certain expectations, being a woman, people expected, oh, she'll be slightly more empathetic, or she'll be slightly more gentle on me because she's a woman CEO?
I think I've been around long enough, 40 years now, that they do so at their peril. So not really. And I think that the other day I was interviewed for an Ooty Club membership, and the committee, they asked me, have you ever been interviewed before? So it's a disadvantage, I think, Jyotsna, you and I. But I do think that for every two of us, there are 2,000 out there of entitled guys who are somebody's, sons, or, who inherited this. But after a while, just like you said, it goes away. If you do not have the requisite skill, the understanding, the talent, you can destroy. And now the rate of destruction is so much faster than in creation. People don't realize it. You just talk about startups. You don't realize the rate of destruction of companies that have been there has radically gone down. So I think whether you're a man or woman, we get up every day thinking that this is a challenge and we have to be worth it.
Ma'am, between the both of you, you have a wealth of experience in your respective industries. When you started out, as opposed to now, the number of women, not just in the workforce, but also in the boardroom, has gone up, maybe not exponentially, but substantially. Has that in any way changed the lot of women in the workforce?
If you look at the statistics, I don't really think we've moved the needle enough. But I think it's a generational issue. But if you look at medical colleges, if you look at STEM, if you look at business colleges, the ratio of women has definitely gone up. So, you know, from when I started, the number of CVs I got for women was so much less. Now it's actually really increased. And I think that's a good one. That for every job, for whether it's a senior or a junior job, there are women out there we're not equal yet, but someday, you know, considering the workforce, if you look at true equality, it can happen.
CII, for one, made a policy that they would try and get together women in startup and have a bank of ideas of what the women could do together. Now, in business, very frequently you speak of the wolf pack, where men would encourage other men and promote other men, and, you know, together they would progress. Do you think there is scope for something like that to be done for women as well? A she-wolf pack, if you will.
I don't think women are really, initiating anything like that I can see right now. But by the way, CII is her. She's past president CII, and I'm past president FICCI. And just for a little bit of just aside, within the three industrial bodies, which is CII, FICCI, and ISOCHAM, if you put them all together, there are about 326 years. And there have only been 5 women presidents. 1 in CII, 1 in ASOCHAM, and 3 in FICCI. So I don't know whether that wolf pack is going to happen with us, or the she-wolf pack is going to happen very soon. However, I definitely think that, as I agree with Shobhana when she says that there's a lot more women coming up and applying for jobs. And you know, for example, I can say with a great amount of pride that 50% of my senior leadership is already women. And we do want to take up the number across board to about 30%. We also have 2 national award-winning executive women chefs, which is a rare thing to happen because chefs are very much a man's world. So things are moving definitely in the right direction. Women are coming up to the front. As a matter of fact, for the last 16 years, I stepped into these shoes, into Lalit's shoes 16 years ago. It was a lot different then, and as I see year on year, there is an improvement, and there is many more women coming into the front and into leadership roles.
When you say that 50% almost of your workforce is now women, was that done consciously or organically?
My leadership
roles, yes.
A couple of them are sitting here in the audience as well. It happened organically. They were suited for the role that they were in. And we're very happy to have them on board. So, you know, one must understand that you're not interviewing a person because it's a man or a woman. The person has to be suitable for the role. But there is a conscious effort that one is trying to make now to increase the workforce. With us, I think it's just been lucky that we've got this 50% already. Even in my boardroom, we have 5 ladies on the board, as against 4 men, so we outnumber the men.
In CII, the idea of putting together women and their ideas for startup, what was the need felt for that?
So I think just like every company, every industry body, where everyone realizes that you have to give a certain group an extra fillip, for them to develop. Only then, just like when they're a young shoot, you have to look after them a little more. Women are at that stage. So while we have 100 unicorns in India, how many of them are women? So you have so many world-class companies in the world. Even the Fortune 500, there are only like 58 women CEOs. So we do understand that this is a group that probably requires, and I think CII doing this was a good thing. FICCI does it a whole lot better, because I frankly believe that CII would be best served when you give women a seat at the main table. Let them come into the National Council. Why should they be isolated? Because that's the way we'll grow. And I think that's the way that we need it. We need more women in the mainstream. When some of these policies are isolationist, so while they have to be nurturing, they should not isolate.
Especially when it comes to startups, given how challenging the environment is, especially when it comes to raising of funds. Is there a hesitation on the part of people who are providing the funds to give money to startups helmed by women, especially when they come in areas which are not considered speciality of women? For example, if you have a startup regarding cosmetics or fashion, there would be greater interest in funding it as opposed to, say, if you want to do IT/BT.
I really think that it's a person-led thing. If you look at the US, I forget her name, but the only company that every single hospital has to run their medical records is Epic. And Epic is run by a woman, founded by a woman. So I do think that people are now smarter that they're giving. So first they created separate pools of money, which is for women. And I think that was a good thing. But now I think more and more VCs and startup opportunities are looking at the actual business case. And that's happening much faster than our world.
In the last 3 years, every industry has been impacted. But in particular, do you find that women have borne the brunt of the pandemic, especially when it comes to their workplace?
The pandemic actually was disastrous for everyone. And women were equally at a loss there, because there was a lot of work from home going on, and therefore I think the women probably got a bigger brunt, because they were not only working from home, but they were also looking after their families. The pandemic really made us all realize the value of a woman, as a matter of fact. Coming back to the workplace, there's some kind of work which can be done from home. For example, a lot of the IT work can be done, but there's work for us and in their field as well, where you have to be on the spot. You cannot be working from home. And I have to say that all the women workforce, once we opened up, they were all back. So it's not that they stayed back home. In fact, they were all wanting to get out and get back. So no, I don't think that they were affected, definitely, because they had a bigger burden to carry while they were at home, working, as well as taking care of their families. But they were back in action very quickly.
For families to have women go out and work, there needs to be a huge amount of confidence building on the part of the employer as well. Over the years, what are the things that you've done to ensure that women are actively encouraged to come out and work with you?
So we try to provide a very safe environment for them. That's, I think, the biggest question mark that all families have, or the female workforce has, is that how safe is the environment that we're working in? We as a group have made it mandatory for ourselves to create a safe environment, not only for women, but all other marginalized sections as well. Whether it's the LGBTQ community, whether it's the differently abled people. As a group, we have actually stepped up hugely to try and make this a safe place for all people to work. So, yes, the support from the family is very important, particularly if, if they are living in a joint family. Well, a lot of nuclear families are coming up now, but the support from the family helps. For example, if there's a young child, and if there is someone at home to take care of that child, the woman is able to work, and perhaps she doesn't take a sabbatical. Otherwise, very often, with childbirth, even despite the fact that you give them that leave, very often a woman has to take the step back and nurture the child for a bit and then come back into action. So I think that's where the gap happens, and very often one has tried to figure out why is it that women lose out in the leadership roles. And it's because of this, because they take a step back, and while their colleagues, the male colleagues, have probably gone ahead, they come back maybe after 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. For them to catch up is not so easy. So family support really does help on that, if there is someone to take care of their family, that is the young children particularly.
Anything in particular that comes to your mind, other than, of course, providing a safe environment, given also that both of your industries are 24/7 industries, where women, just like men, have to work round the clock?
I think the pandemic taught us certain things, a lot. We're over 50% women. And if the women had really left the workforce in hospitals during the pandemic, I think India would have suffered exponentially much, much more. And the thing is that a lot of these people, please understand, that they had a choice to go back home, but they didn't. They said, this is our job. So I think that what jobs give you, if you give them a sense of respect and a sense of purpose. So any of the new joinees that come in, whether it's men or women, one thing is that in healthcare we can tell them, anything you do, whether it's selling a medicine or whether it's even working in the IT, in our digital health, I said, every action you take actually saves a life. So I think that purpose is something that if you can give, and that's what the pandemic did. And I agree with Jyotsna. She just covered everything that good companies do, and especially women-led companies and companies that have a disproportionate share of women. But there's still challenges out there. And I think one of the things that really helped that this government did is about the maternity leave. We all cribbed about it at the beginning, saying that so many days off, I mean, why should we hire? But then it just became smart, because women, if you can really pull them in and give them that kind of comfort, get them back in, you will find that our attrition among women is much lower. So we have to understand that there are advantages, and these are people that can grow and now work from home. And I think my daughter the other day on something, she said, she's expecting, and she said, this leave should not come after the baby is born. In the first 3 months, we actually suffer, So why can't we make this, just choose how you want to take that 3 months? And I think that's an interesting thing, that companies should have conversations. So are our companies first open to have conversations? To me, that's a big one. And I think this is something that we should continue. People like Jyotsna, myself, all of you, the press, any woman out there, push the envelope and make this a better place for women, more purpose-led. Because you'll find, really, if you look at history, a lot of women, they're super at mediation, and they're also the biggest number of martyrs, because they like to take up causes. So I think this is a cause that is worth it.
Have you found all employers being as welcoming? I was about to come to the maternity leave. There were a lot of rumblings about it. Talk of how, as it is because of sexual harassment or posh committees or the Me Too movement, and now the maternity leave, women increasingly began to be seen as a kind of financial liability.
So I think, the earlier talk that you gave, about ESG is difficult. CSR was difficult. ESG is difficult to your bottom line. But at the end, it's so uncool not to do it. So I think this women thing, we really have to make it uncool if a company doesn't participate. And life is tough. You have bigger problems than how to look after women in business in terms of competition. And I think just make it super uncool not to treat women fair, not to hire women, not to give them a safe and a purpose-led career.
Absolutely. But, you know, we spoke about the maternity leave. Did the whole sexual harassment at workplace, especially in the aftermath of the Me Too movement, make it a very tough tightrope walk for employers? Especially, like I said, in the hospitality industry, where, you know, you work round the clock. Safety is a very, you know, tricky issue there. You have obviously people working together in close proximity. How do you deal with that challenge?
So you have to deal with it head on. Particularly in our industry, as you said, it's round the clock and people are working in close proximity. But if somebody puts in a complaint via the POSH, you have to take it very seriously. There are times when the complaint could not be, or perhaps is not really a genuine one. But as an employer, you have to see both sides. And therefore, you have to be very impartial. You have to take it very, very seriously. And that's why in the POSH, you also have outside people who come in, and they are like a little jury that takes place. So you have to deal with it. And, you know, the complaints are many. So there's not like one odd complaint. You get complaints all over. Now, we've got hotels everywhere. And you have different problems that are coming in. But like I said, you have to just face it head on. You have to deal with it. You have to go through the investigation very, very impartially and try and come to a conclusion which you hope is correct. So it is what it is. And it does happen. It happens quite a lot in our industry. It happens in other industries as well. But there are times when the complaint is not genuine. But you have to take it as it comes. That happens in anything and everything as well. So take the complaint very seriously, get the proper investigation done, and try and get an impartial solution to it.
And that must be a real challenge, if especially you feel that perhaps the complaint is not genuine, and then to try and handle the situation, especially when the spotlight will be on you now as a lady boss. Is there a greater pressure there?
So then there will be a tendency for everyone to feel that I, as a lady boss, am perhaps partial towards the woman. But you have to break that, because you've got to be extremely impartial in this. And yes, the focus is on you, and you are walking a tightrope. But in our experience in the last so many years, I think out of, say, 10 decisions, 9 have been correct. So there could be a one odd that could go wrong, but that can happen anywhere. Consciously, we do not try to be partial in any which way, despite the fact that I'm a woman, and perhaps there is a tendency for me to feel a little bit stronger for the lady on the other side. But you've got to break that. You have to see it dispassionately, completely.
Despite industry bodies making a conscious effort of having a fair representation, are we really any closer to having genuine pay parity?
Yeah, I think that we need some superstars to shout out about that. It was Billie Jean King in tennis, and the whole lot of them as a groundswell. And I see no reason why women should be paid less. It's never done in our companies. You definitely can't pay nurses less than you pay the male nurses. There's some equality in that. But we've run out of time. But so one thing, then I don't want to go out on this note, and you may not ask me the question, but I do think that this conversation needs to be layered, that we're not two genders anymore. Yes, women have, for centuries probably have not been equal to the male, but now there's 72 other genders. So how are you going to look at all that? And I think that companies need to, and Jyotsna, you pointed out to that, and what you do in your company, fantastic, we need to do that. But this is the last point I really want to make. This whole conversation on generative AI that can either displace jobs or change the world around, please remember that there are more men writing the conversations than there are women. So if your chat GPT is going to give you male answers and you don't know what it is, so I think to me that's a whole level of scare that we've not looked at. What is the women data that you're giving in that? Because history is always written by the victor. So if you have 70 men writing out all the things of ChatGPT, you're going to get male-dominated replies. So to me, this I wake up. I mean, I stay awake at night thinking, we need parity there, then the rest will happen.
Wow, from a male gaze, we've actually come to a male language. Who would have thought? Well, I think the conversation has come a full circle from talking about whether it's only about male and female CEOs to talking about an even more layered, nuanced conversation on the various genders now that we have to address. For that, thank you very much, both ladies, for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies, for that. And we'll make sure next time we chat with a she-bot and not a he-bot.